Well, good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting this evening. This is the 33rd meeting of the 144th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. Are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. Under Strategic Direction and Development Committee, Report 7B, titled CIP Project Amino North America Corporation, 15 Highbury Ave. Amino is my current employer.
All right. Any others? Seeing none, we'll move to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on September the 16th, 2024 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with following business. First item under strategic direction and development is the community improvement plan project for 100072509 Ontario Inc. for the property at 40 Wellington. A motion that report PD 2624 relating to community improvement project for 40 Wellington be received for information, and further the council approve a residential grant and loan, development charge grant, tax increment grant, and planning and building fees grant for application 2024-143 as submitted by 100072509 Ontario Inc. for 40 Wellington, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a residential loan agreement with 100072509 Ontario Inc. relating to CIP project at 40 Wellington Street. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Just a little trivia on this property. A lot of people will know it locally as Campbell Cottage at the southwest corner of Elgin and Wellington. And the interesting thing about it is it was built as a private home, but in 1927, Margaret Campbell Leach passed away. Her husband was Dr. Archibald Leach, and she passed away, and she left the home to elderly ladies of modest means. And it was operated by the Ladies Benevolent and Temperance Society from 1927 to 73. So an early retirement home.
Yes. See, we were interested even in housing even then, but the private sector was heavily involved. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried.
Next item relates to community improvement plan project for the property at 15 Highbury Avenue. Noting Councillor Kohler's pecuniary interest. I have a motion that report PD 2724 relating to the community improvement project by Amino North American Corporation for 15 Highbury Avenue be received for information, and further the council approve the recommended tax increment grant as submitted by Amino North America Corporation for 15 Highbury Avenue. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Gibson.
Once again, we're improving our community by adding more jobs once this job is completed.
Love it. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried, noting the exclusion of Councillor Kohler.
Next item is notice of a public meeting taking place by Zoom on October the 10th at 10 a.m. from the Committee of Adjustment regarding an application for a minor variance by 1611905 Ontario Inc. to permit a minimum of 1 parking space per townhouse unit, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 1.25 parking spaces per unit. And that's on 7 blocks of the McGregor Farm Phase 2A subdivision development for 35 units. Your Worship, unless there's any further items from the members under this committee, we'll move into community engagement and services. First item relates to the road closure and a requested exemption for under the animal control bylaw for the Light Up Talbot event. I have a motion that report ES 4224 relating to the Light Up Talbot road closure and exemption of animal control bylaw requests be received for information. And further, the council approve the temporary closure of Mondayman Street from Curtis to Talbot Streets and Talbot Street from East to Horton Street on Friday, November the 15th, 2024, between the hours of 4:30 and 9:30 p.m. to allow for the Light Up Talbot event. And further, that a temporary exemption from 6.1 of the Animal Control Bylaw 71-2011 be granted to the Light Up Talbot event organizers to permit horse and wagon rides and farm animals for a nativity scene at the event. Moved by Counselor Kohler, seconded by Counselor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Worship, unless there are any further items for this committee, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to Edgeware Line and South Edgeware Road closures. I have a motion that report ID 3424 relating to Edgeware Line and South Edgeware Road closures be received for information. And further, the council authorize administration to undertake the administrative actions and notifications to close a portion of Edgeware Line and South Edgeware Road. Moved by Counselor Clark, seconded by Counselor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Worship, unless there are any further items for this committee.
Counselor Gibson?
Thank you, Worship. I've been contacted by about 5 people for sure. It's regards to the speed limit that's on the Empire Parkway. It's the Harvest Run subdivision, and it goes from 60 kilometers to 80 kilometers. They've been having issues, a lot of issues with speeders going along there. They're just wondering when and if the speed limit's going to go down to 50, which would meet our city limits speed.
We can certainly ask Kevin. Mr. Dealerbeck's got the answer already. He's at the podium.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Preston. Councilor Gibson, were you referring to Centennial Avenue?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Sorry.
All right, that's a county roadway, so I'll pass that along to my colleague at the county and then see what they can do to help reduce the speeds in that area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Your worship will now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to the 2023 development charges. I have a motion that report TR 1324 relating to the 2023 development charges be received for information. Moved by Counselor Wookey, seconded by Counselor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to asset retirement obligation. I have motion that report TR 1424 relating to asset retirement obligation be received for information. And further, council approve the asset retirement obligation policy as attached to report TR 1424. Moved by Counselor Wookey, seconded by Counselor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Counselor Wookey, then Counselor Peters.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. This may be a question for the city treasurer or city engineer, I'm not sure. But in terms of, for the public, this is just a kind of what we would, I think, financially be obligated to do if we retired these sites, whether they're brownfield, whether there's asbestos. Do we have a comprehensive list of what those sites are and where the asbestos is? Do we have estimates for what it would, what it would be? Or do we have those estimates just to satisfy the legislation? I really don't know what's going on with this one. So thank you.
Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, through you. For the asbestos, yes, we have, on an annual basis, we have assessments done on all city buildings. And what's needed to be done for asbestos is all listed out there. There's 3 categories. Category 1 is stuff that needs to be remediated right away. Category 2 is can be done the next time there's renovations. And 3 is stuff that can be left there permanently. So all the ones are done now. And so now when for the 2s, when other renovations being done, the asbestos is removed on an ongoing basis. For the soil, we don't have comprehensive studies on the amounts. Our engineering department has a fair amount of knowledge on the properties, and they estimate the cost on those.
Thank you.
Counselor Peters.
I had the same question. Thanks, your worship.
Great. Mr. Treasurer, before you leave, but this is more of a accounting piece than it is a remediation piece?
Yeah, this isn't, we're not, it doesn't mean we're gonna do the work. It's just that we have to account for it so we don't overvalue our assets.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Clark?
I was just wondering about the Fairview Ave Bridge as an example, like we're looking at possibly doing work on Fairview. So under this policy, like, could you just walk us through, if we're getting rid of that bridge, how it would apply to this? Or would it? Like,
I don't think it would apply because we'll still be using that land. So the bridge will be, whatever happens there, I don't want to say what's going to happen, but when that's done, it's mostly for things that we're going to sell or give away and in the future that, so it's not overvalued. So if we had a property that we wanted to sell, but it was contaminated and we had a book value of $10 million, but it's not really worth that because it's the contaminated land, right? So this brings it down to the actual value, what it's worth.
Okay, thank you very much. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless the members have any further items under corporate governance administration, we'll now move into, or council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. One report this evening relating to a request to remove heritage designation for the property at 77 Metcalf Street. Members have the report before them. As all resolutions by council are prepared in the positive, this resolution will be also read in the positive, that council consent, despite the fact that the report recommends that council refuse. So I have a motion that report MHC 1324 relating to the request to remove heritage designation at 77 Metcalf Street be received for information. And further, the council consent to the request to remove the heritage designation for the property at 77 Metcalf Street. And further, that notice of council's decision be provided to the owner of the property and the Ontario Heritage Trust. Moved by Councillor McCauley, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters, I'll let you go.
Thanks very much, your worship. As a member of the committee, I think it's probably helpful to let the public know what has happened here. 77 Metcalf Street was designated by City Council in 1992 by the then landowner at the time. New property owners have taken over the property and have some concerns about their ability to do things and potentially market their property as a result of the designation on the property, hence the request from the Corriveau family to have it removed. I would just want to note that the committee, what you saw in the report, the committee recommended that the request not be granted. And I know Harrison Cole, the chairman, isn't available tonight, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions on that. But as the clerk pointed out, the resolution does support the property owner. I just would add, your worship, that it's not unprecedented. We had a previous council had another situation of the Alma Street Presbyterian Church being designated. The owners found that the designation encumbered on their ability to do some of the things that they wanted to do. And council granted, notwithstanding the committee not wanting the designation removed, council sided with the property owners. So there's some similarities.
Councillor Wookie.
Thanks very much, your worship. Further upon what Councillor Peters was saying, I guess the Alma Church, I remember that when it came up, and it was that the inside had been gutted so much and the outside was in such bad repair that there was really nothing that could be done that way. So for 77 Metcalf, I guess what I wouldn't think it's in as bad repair. So I think those cases are a little bit different, and with all due respect to Councilor Peters, in those situations. But I guess in these situations, I'd always be interested in just having a heart-to-heart with the owner to say, like, what do you want to do? Like, is this a situation? And I don't know. So I guess before I would want to get rid of the designation, I would kind of want to talk to them about what their plan is, frankly. Thank you.
Well, they sent us a fairly specific letter, and I know they sent the Heritage Committee.
I can add to that.
Why don't you?
Yeah, your worship, Mr. Corvo, the homeowner, was present at the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting, and he did convey to the committee his concerns over such things as insurance, the ability on a fixed income to undertake repairs that would require heritage specialties, and the ability of hindrance of the ability to sell the house because of the designation on it. But Mr. Corvo was present at the committee for the meeting, for the deliberations.
I know that in past deliberations, this council has said we should leave it up to homeowners when we're faced with this, rather than us force upon a homeowner a designation that they don't wish. But I'll take further comments. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I think for our city, it's important to have a strong heritage committee for sure. And I think when you look around the city, they've designated the ones that needed to be designated. But I think if you're living in that house for 30-something years and they just found out, I don't know, something about the lawyer said when they bought it that they can do something later or something. But when you want to do renovations and you can't get insurance and it made problems if you ever decide to sell, personally, I think we should maybe do something for them. So I think Councilor Wookie had a good point there. Maybe we need to get a little more information. But anyway, I just think in my mind, I'd be happy to support them. So anyway, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Okay, Councillor Wookie.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please remind us of what a yes vote or no vote means? Thank you.
Thank you.
So the resolution is in the positive. The request was to remove the heritage designation, and the resolution is that council consent to that request. Whereas the recommendation contained in the report from your committee is to refuse. So this resolution is worded that council consent to the request to remove the heritage designation.
Okay, so with that understanding, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried. So we've removed the heritage designation. And we thank the Heritage Committee for its strong work on the subject too. Next item.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll now move into petitions and communications. The first item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the Rotary Club of St. Thomas. I have motioned that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim October 23rd, 2024 as World Polio Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Rotary International flag be flown at City Hall on October 23rd, 2024, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on October 23rd, 2024 at 11 a.m. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from Family and Children's Services, St. Thomas Elgin. I have motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim October 21st to 26th, 2024 as Foster Family Appreciation Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Family and Children's Services flag be flown at City Hall from October 21st to 26th, 2024, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on October 21st, 2024 at 9 a.m. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation and flag raising from the Elgin St. Thomas Coalition to End Poverty. I have motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim October 17th, 2024 as International Day to Eradicate Poverty in the City of St. Thomas, And further, that the Coalition to End Poverty flag be flown at City Hall on October 17th, 2024. Moved by Counselor Clark. Seconded by Counselor Wookey.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a copy of a resolution addressed to the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario Advocacy Team regarding amendments to the Municipal Elections Act. Next item is a copy of a resolution addressed to the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry of Canada from the town of Tillsonburg regarding cellular communications infrastructure. Next item is a resolution from the City of Temiskaming Shores regarding the expansion of retail alcohol sales in Ontario. Next item is a letter received from the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources regarding applications to participate in the extension of the flood hazard identification and mapping program. Your worship, that concludes the items.
Councillor Peters?
Thanks, your worship. I guess Mr. Bray's not here, but I would just hope that, I know we had a previous report about the old dam at Waterworks Park, and they were going to be looking at, you know, some of the what ifs in event of a failure, et cetera. So I would hope that if there's perhaps, and I see Jeff's online, so he may want to address this, whether there's any funds that we can tap into regarding the old dam at Waterworks.
Mr. Bray, can you join us and see if you can answer Councillor Peters' questions?
Thank you, Mayor Preston and Councillor Peters. There was recent funding that was released, and I went on to the webinar to listen to it. It sounds like the funding is more geared to conservation authorities and protection of large swaths of private property. I don't think it's applicable to the project that we're bringing forward in this capital budget cycle. And I will keep an eye out for any other opportunities.
Great. Thank you for doing that for us. Councillor Clark?
Well, thanks, your worship. Just a reminder that under communications that there's a benefit concert for hospice coming up on November 22nd, and they've invited all members of council, as well as it's a reminder to all the public. Tickets can be picked up at the hospice office or through Grant Houston or at Gearlinks.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And again, it is November 22nd at the Masonic Center.
Madam Clerk, that was maybe one item for new business, but we have one unfinished business piece.
Yes, your worship, under unfinished business, we have a briefing memorandum relating to the therapeutic pool at the St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital, memorandum CMO 1624.
I'll go to Councillor Baldwin Sands first. I was going to have our city manager jump in, but as you can at the end, that will be fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. I will probably add more to this conversation. I've stated around this circle before that swimming is the #1 lifetime activity in Canada. Starting from the age of 4 to the age of wherever we are, swimming is something that we like to do, we continue to do. It's something that we embrace. To see that the clinical pool at the St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital has been shut down, and that leaves 600 to 1,000 unique visits per month for rehab and recovery. The community pool program, which does mobility, strength, cardiovascular workouts for 8 classes a day, up to 640 residents a month under unique visits, plus private swimming lessons that are done in that pool, with 150 to 175 students per month. We have been talking about a community center and aquatic facility for quite a while now, and the committee is still very active. So I do have a first question about the status of the Parks and Rec master plan update. And see if that is, because the committee has been asking for that for a while now. So I could ask the first question about to the city manager, what is the status of the Parks and Rec master plan update.
City manager?
Through your worship, and Mr. Bray's online, he might want to add to this, but right now what we're doing is we're engaging the authors of the current, the existing Parks and Recreation Master Plan and asking them for a proposal to extend the scope of work to do the update on the plan, because that plan's not that old. So it would make sense for us to use that background as it exists and their existing background. And as an adjunct to that plan, as per the strategic plan, we would be asking them to do a need study, feasibility analysis, business case, and a location assessment for the recreation slash aquatics facility. And that's in accordance with the strategic plan. And the delivery time for that would be about 1 year from this time, because it was a end of Q3 of 2025 when the strategic plan identified that we'd be considering that. So I think we're still on target to do that. So we would hope to have something in front of council, I think, to award that as we've laid out probably next month.
Go ahead.
Further to that, this report does refer to the community center and aquatic facility. So that is why I hope that this report that has been written and presented to us tonight be forwarded to the strategic initiatives manager so that we can add that as part of our project, and to also bring attention again that the Talbot Trail Physiotherapy did send a letter of support for a new community center. But all of that being said, I would also like to support the people that have been stranded by not being able to do their swimming program at the Stake Hospital with something right now. And I would like to put a motion forward to have City Council send a letter to the board, to the hospital administration, and CC the Talbot Trail Physiotherapy, and to keep the pool open at Stake until St. Thomas can build our own facility.
So I have a motion.
As a motion.
We have a seconder.
I would second that, your worship, and I have a question as well.
Okay, well then, since you've seconded, I'll give you first question.
Thanks very much. I'll support that. I think that I think a lot of us have heard from Sally Martin over the weekend. We've had a number of emails. We have residents here. And I sensed in my conversation with Sally is that they weren't not looking for a financial commitment for this therapeutic pool at the Elgin General Hospital. They're looking for our support. So that's why I would support the motion that, communication be had with the hospital that, we need this because we're not going to be building a new pool in 1 year or 3 years. This is going to be a multi-year project. So we need this therapeutic pool to be a bridge pool to the future. But I think if, one of the things I would like to see perhaps in the correspondence is that that the hospital reach out to the community and talk to Sally and her team of people, because I was under the impression that they were prepared to make the commitment to raise the $350,000 or whatever it's going to take to be needed. They're looking for our moral support, and I wholly support that.
Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Kohler.
Thank you, worship. Well, let's just reminisce a bit about that pool. The pool was put into the hospital because we had a physiotherapy department at the hospital, and any inpatient, that's where they went, or outpatient, that's where they went. And for years, that's the way it was. But the physiotherapy department is outsourced now to Talbot Trail. Inpatients no longer go there for the pool. So when the pool flooded, it created a real problem for the hospital. Do we fix it? We don't use it. We rent it out. So the fact they rent it out, it's not really a responsibility of the hospital to fix it because they don't use it. So, but as Councillor Peters said, we've all had talks, and Sally called me too, and they believe they have enough funds to repair the pool. So it can be used by the community. There's a lot of people use that pool daily. And I guess my question would be, would the hospital allow an outside group pay for the repairs? If they would do that, it would be good. But I guess you'd have to find out, does the hospital want someone to repair a pool in their building, and they wouldn't have any responsibility for it? So there's no question the community uses it. My brother-in-law had a knee replacement. He'd been going there for 2 weeks. All of a sudden you can't go there anymore for his therapy. But Now, I don't know, Chris Tribe is obviously needs the pool. So I don't know what his part is. Does he help pay for the repairs or I don't know, because it's not their pool, it's the hospital's pool. So that'd be my question for Karen Davies. Would it be a problem if they come up with $350,000 a day, repair the pool and continue on? Would they allow that? That's my question. Thank you.
Councillor Kohler? Maybe
Thanks, Your Worship. I certainly support this. The pool is something that helps accelerate many people with their recovery. And I know when I talk to many of the people that are interested in seeing it repaired, the financial commitment was something that they discussed. And, you know, the hospital has the foundation there that they raise funds for other things like that. So they could use the foundation as part of that. And what I like to hear is that they're not just looking to address that, but to also address the concerns of future leaks, right? So there needs to be some infrastructure work there to make sure that if it's repaired, that it's not going to cause any damage and affect the operating of the hospital. So I certainly support the sending of the letter and hope that we can work that way. But you know, just no different than the MRI machine going in there, the community's fundraising to support that and all kinds of efforts to better the hospital. So, and this would be one more initiative for that.
Councillor Clark?
Well, thanks. Yeah, I was just going to echo those thoughts. We, as a city, we're not trying to tell the hospital how to run their business, but we certainly are always asked and support them when there's needs. And so we're hearing from our citizens that this is an asset that's highly valued. There's damage there. The engineer's report is there. So obviously there's going to be a solution and at what cost. So I would just encourage the hospital to reach out and meet with the concerned citizens and trying to work out a solution. It sounds like there's huge community support in terms of finances. And as Councillor Kohler just said, they fundraise for everything else. So let's, you know, I can't see the hospital refusing funds. So let's get at it and let's support it and let's keep the pool.
Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, myself, I have immediate family that have used that pool when it was available to them. And then after I talked to Sally, I got thinking, well, maybe I should be asking some more of my friends. I've got exactly 35 friends who are now unable to use that pool. And of course, I had one young lady ask me, Mary, she asked me if I would send a letter requesting, and I kind of hummed on it. And then I got thinking, absolutely right, I am going to. I'm an individual whose family has been cannot use it anymore. And I'm thinking as an individual, a private individual, I can certainly send a letter. So I will support tonight's motion. And thank you, Lori, for thinking of it.
I'll just reiterate and I'll let the city manager maybe finish off. We can be the mediators on this. I feel some danger in us getting in the middle of it. We already support our hospital as the best regional hospital in Ontario, and without the city of St. Thomas can't grow the way it's growing without a great regional hospital. But when we start telling the board of the hospital what they will or won't do, we better also be able to back it. And I want to make sure that that's not what we're saying here, that we're saying we wish you would at least speak to the people involved and see if there's a solution. And if there is and they can fundraise, then let's put it that way. But I want to make sure that the city's out of the equation in the sense of saying, and we want to be involved somehow. We want to be involved in having a great hospital. And I'll tell you, if the last 3 weeks are any indication to me, Stephanie's been in that hospital for the last 3 weeks, and it is second to none the best place to be. So I'll speak nothing but great about what our hospital is, but I want to challenge this council to be careful that we're not offering something we can't do. But let's offer the advice that they speak with the people who are involved. And if they can fundraise for them and there's an engineering report that will make it work, then let's make it happen. City manager to add or anything?
Your worship, not too much really, other than just it was noted in the letter from the hospital that, their cost of repair is one issue, but the risk of continuity of operations to the hospital is another concern, which is why they haven't. So I just want council to be aware of that I think the decision wasn't just based purely on cost, based on what the hospital told me, that they are concerned about what the pool could do to ongoing hospital operations, given that there's adjacent infrastructure that's fairly important to the hospital. So.
Okay. But that still covers us sending two groups to go speak to each other and talk about the funds. All right. Further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That's carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Unless the items have unless the members have any items under new business this evening, we'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor McCauley, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on October 7th, 2024.
Questions or comments from the members? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, it's carried. Second bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Prespa Sales and Rentals Limited. This relates to the affordable housing at 15 Flora Street.
Questions or comments from the members? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, it's carried. Third and final bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 45-89, being a bylaw to revise and consolidate certain bylaws regulating traffic and the parking of motor vehicles. This relates to community safety zones in the city.
Questions or comments from the members? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, it's carried. Your worship, I rise to report the successful passing of 3 bylaws.
Very efficiently too.
I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor McCauley, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 3 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time and grossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No public notice or notices of motion this evening. At this time, there's a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending disposition of land. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Before I move to questions and comments and the vote, same as normally, we will be leaving now and moving into closed session where we have to discuss. And then when we are done, we will go to open session in public in order to adjourn for the evening and leave, but there'll be nothing left to see. So I challenge you all to have a great night the rest of the evening. And thank you for those of you that have joined us here at council, in the audience and at home tonight. Questions or comments? Seeing none? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. We are enclosed.
Your worship, at this time, I have a motion by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor McCauley, that council now rise from closed session.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further items for open session, your worship. I have a motion that council adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We are adjourned before 6 o'clock.